Representative Lueck, thanks for joining us today. Born and raised in Aitkin, Minnesota, but you spent some time, it sounds like, overseas, part of the Navy. What made you come back to Aitkin, and what kind of town is it?
Combination of agriculture and forestry town, and then we're right next to Crosby, Ironton, Deerwood. So mining was a huge part of that town's economy too. So yeah, I put 28 years in the United States Navy and looked around, and my alternatives were, I could have stayed on the East Coast or moved back to the West Coast and lived. And there's a reason why we settled the Wild West, particularly the East Coast, because the alternative was to live there. A lot nicer in the Midwest, let's put it that way. But yeah, that didn't go over with a lot of my neighbors when I was stationed on the East Coast. I said, well, I'm here under duress.
I counted, we were talking before this, 95 different cities or townships in your district. Yeah. I mean, what's that like, talking to residents from that many different areas of your district?
Well, it really keeps you busy. It's just, we've got city of Fort Ripley and Fort Ripley Township way down on the southwest corner of the district, and then we got Jacobson and some unorganized townships clear up on the northeast corner over in Aitkin County, and so really, really busy. And while a lot of the needs in our communities up there are similar, each one has some unique circumstances, particularly the age of infrastructure. Wastewater treatment plants are kind of a boring subject to everybody but legislators and city councils because it's a huge and important part of clean water. So we protect the environment, but it's also a huge expense for those small towns. So those are the kind of things that everybody's in a little different circumstance, and that really keeps you busy. And you get an appreciation too for. And I served on our Aitkin County Board for 2 terms, and I'd always scratch my head sometimes with the decisions that came out of St. Paul. It was almost as if they didn't know we lived up here. and that was one of the motivations of why I decided to run for office, is making sure that there's a voice down here for our part of Minnesota, because it is radically different where we live as opposed to down here in the metro area, and nothing against either place, but what may work in a large city just absolutely won't work at Jacobson, Minnesota, or McGrath, or Fort Ripley, or Deerwood, or Garrison. We don't have that kind of economic backbone that you do down here in the metro area.
And when you're down here, you sit on 5 House committees. Is that a challenge?
I'm a busy guy.
That is busy. I mean, that seems like more than most members. That seems like a lot. Is that a challenge?
It's a challenge, but I've got 1 foot in the ag, I got 1 foot in forestry, and mining continues to be an important aspect in our area, because even though we're not actively mining iron ore in the area, we've got a huge manganese deposit in northern Crow Wing County. We've got a huge copper nickel deposit in northern Aitkin County. And then we do peat mining, a very important element in Aitkin County. And then, like I say, my dad was one of the last iron workers that worked in the mines on the Crosby Ironton mine. So. And Crosby Ironton is right square in the middle of the district, and so I saw the impact when you lose mining, what it has, the impact it has on the economy, and people have to move to follow their jobs, that type of thing. But there's also there's opportunities there, because I get, I haven't been in service. I got to live and see a lot of places in other parts of the world, and one of the things that just confounds me is we are such a demanding society. We demand clean water, and we demand all of the natural resources that allow us to have cell phones and cars and you name it. But we expect those resources to be extracted from other places than for example, in Minnesota or on the North American continent. And I would value everybody's clean water equally. We have no right to demand that natural resources be extracted in other places under less stringent rules. and damage to their environment when we can do it here in a safe manner. So, because I've seen that in North Africa, I've seen that in Asia, in less developed countries where we can do it right. And if we're going to demand all these things that require natural resources, then we certainly should be responsible enough to, as best we can, use our own resources first, and not put that burden on countries, nations and societies that don't have the resources and the technology that we do. And that's why I say I'm kind of more than knee deep into regulation, making sure that we've got to have rational regulations. But on the other hand, we can't let that regulatory impulse literally shut out rational development of natural resources. And that goes for not just mining, but it goes for forestry and it goes for agriculture products, because if it doesn't come out of the ground, if we don't cut it down as trees or we don't grow it, I'm not sure what it is.
As Vice Chair of the House Subcommittee on Mining, Forestry, and Tourism, what are your thoughts on the state of mining industry right now in Minnesota?
It's a critical part of the entire state's economy, and it's absolutely essential. It's literally a economic life or death thing for about a third of the state, and that starts where I live and goes north. A lot of people think, well, that's just something in a few spots, but that is there's a huge ripple effect. In fact, I was recently at the annual meeting of the Iron Mining Association. They had that up at Tower, Minnesota, here last week. So there's 9 major mining companies operate up there in the area. That organization has got over 100 supporting members that are directly involved commercially in providing services to those 9 mining companies. And that's the kind of footprint. And that footprint isn't just up there. I've got companies right in our district that do a huge amount of work for both the iron mining companies. They're in water management. They also do work on wastewater plants all over the state. So that it's way bigger than just well, that's kind of a Northeast Minnesota Iron Range thing. No, it's a Minnesota thing. And one of the things, and this is sometimes you scratch your head, it's pretty simple. Like it or not, the minerals are where the minerals are. So, it isn't like we can go someplace where there's no iron ore or taconite and mine it. What's there is there, and that's just a fact of nature. And a lot of people don't realize that portion of Minnesota is blessed with an unbelievable amount of minerals, not just taconite and iron ore, copper, nickel, palladium, there's a whole bunch of things, gold, silver, some really unique minerals that we're just beginning to understand. And we're running all over the world, screwing other people's environment up, importing that stuff now when I am confident that we can do it the right way and do it in our part of the world without messing up our clean water. So it's a big deal. And it's a generational thing, because some of the technology and some of the things we're learning, that's going to let us go generation after generation and safely mine. Because they say, mining started back in the 1880s, clear up by Ely, Minnesota. At least the iron mining did. And by accident, a lot of the pits and the stuff right there at the Crosby-Arrington area, the Cuyuna Country State Rec area, those pits that my dad worked in are now pristine trout lakes. Some of the best trout fishing in the state of Minnesota. And in fact, we don't even refer to them as pits anymore. We refer to them as lakes. And that's quite a change for even the local people that have lived there all their lives. Now it's like, wow, used to have to go to Canada to fish trout. Well, no, not really. I can do it next door.
And before I let you go, I want to ask you about this. I was reading your Thanksgiving legislative update. You guys went hunting as a family. How did it go this year? Do you have any success?
Great. And the highlight of it was my dad was able to get a deer, and he does most years. I think at one point he had 52 years in a row without, and he's 91 years old. But yeah, we did real well. We hunt on property that my wife and I own, and it's a piece of, it's actually includes what was my folks' farm, and down the road what was my grandparents' farm and some other lands, about 340 acres. But yeah, we filled out, let's just put it that way. We've got enough venison to do us for, we probably don't even have to go hunting next year now. Not that we will, rest assured we will. But yeah, we did real well. And the big thing is, it's just the one thing that we do as a big thing we do as a family. And it's part of the reason why we decided to move back from 28 years of gallivanting all around the world is there's some things you can do in rural Minnesota that once you get hooked on them, yeah, you're there forever.